I like the word passion because I think that that's like related to feelings. And I think that kids are, everybody wants to succeed in life, and they have this idea of what it is to succeed. And through school and through parenting, we're like, well, what are the steps that we need to take to be successful in life? And the first new idea that I want to put to you is, well, what if it's more about who do I need to become to be successful, as opposed to something that I'm trying to reach? Because if you think about it, once you're at the destination, you're there and it's over. And life is really more about an ongoing journey. And I think education also doesn't need to be just this thing that we do until we get a diploma or we graduate from college and then our life begins then. Education is ongoing, and it should be. And I think encouraging kids to continue to develop, and most everybody that you talk to, if you ask them about their spark, and if they were lucky enough to follow their spark, most people do change. Most people, as they go through life and meet different people, they change. You can go to the next slide. So what we're really talking about with young people is encouraging them to become the best version of themselves. For them to even be able to do that, they have to be able to think, well, who is it that I want to become in the first place? What version of me do I want to be? Do I just want to be because my mom and dad want me to go to this great college, and I want to be successful and I want to have a big house? But life goes a lot deeper than that, and I think it's more down to how the child sees themselves being useful to the rest of the world. What I find important about this, though, is that it's very easy to look across a school or a classroom and to know, oh, she's got her spark, she's great at sports, or this person is very outgoing, this is a theater person. And I tend to work with a lot of kids in theater who discover their spark because of the type of work that we do, because we're doing sort of like dig into figuring out who you are and what do you have that's fantastic that you can share with an audience. But not all kids are drawn to theater. And so one of the reasons that we thought this program was so important is for those kids that haven't got a clue what their spark is. And maybe they're those kids in school that are introverts and they go under the radar. And without, like a lot of these kids were talking about how important those teachers were to them, because it was the teachers that recognized something in them and reached out to them. And without that, without a community of people who I think all of you are here because you are in some way involved with children, but without those people reaching out to some of those kids, some of those children never will discover their spark, or they might discover it late, but it's too late for them to do anything about it. So that's one of the reasons that I feel really passionate about this camp that we put together too, is an opportunity to reach some of those kids who maybe wouldn't have a chance of discovering any other way. And by the way, parents, we love our kids, we're there for our kids, but our kids don't need us to be their spark champions. It actually, they respond better to other people, from teachers to counselors to people in their community. Kids really just want us to love them and support them. I think it's really simple. I think it's down to kids feeling happier. I think if they feel like they've got something that they have purpose, and they have passion for it, they're just happier in general. And I happen to think also that to be an educator, to be somebody who works with children, if you are going to try to inspire that child, you need to know your spark yourself. So you'll see on your clipboard there's a little index card. And I want each of you to think back. Some of you may have followed your spark. Some of you may be living your life's purpose already, and that's great. Some of you may not have, because some of you may have thought, I need to follow a life to make sure I can pay my bills and support my family, and my spark can wait, and that's okay too. But if you could write on that index card, what do you think your real spark is? And I think finding a spark is getting a balance between what you love, what you're good at, and what really makes the difference is how you combine those two elements with how you can help other people with it. I definitely have. A little story about me. I think one of the reasons that I was courageous enough to follow my spark, I had a very difficult childhood. I lost my mother at a very young age, and I think that I was fortunate enough that I turned that situation into, I wanted to have a meaningful life, because I didn't have a guarantee that how long my life was going to be. And so I think the reality of understanding at the age of 10 that life isn't permanent, it gave me the feeling like, well, if I'm not going to be around that long, I want to make the most out of it. And I feel very fortunate about that. But I had a father who loved me very much and was terrified when I told him I wanted to do theater, and tried everything to talk me out of it and cut me off financially and said, I will not pay for your college education if that's what you're going to follow. And I understand now, because he's a parent and he loved me and he had concerns about me being able to support myself. Had my mother not died and left me life insurance, I wouldn't have been able to go to college and study what I want. And I have no regrets whatsoever for what I've done. And children have incredible imaginations. Creativity is imagination applied. So if you ask, for example, a group of young children, are you creative? Almost all their hands will go up. Because they're like, yeah, I'll try that. I'm creative, yes. But if you ask a group of adults, like if I asked you, how many of you think you're creative? I see hands going up like this, like we don't even want to admit because she might make me do something. A few of you. And that's interesting because we all have an imagination, but we're not all willing to apply it. And again, it goes back to some of this stuff because we're afraid. So this is what we can do. And this is really the purpose of giving this talk and putting these ideas out there. How do we create an environment that can ignite sparks? And I put the picture of the safety net because I talked to you about the safety net that I try and create for the kids that I work with. But what can we do to create an environment to help kids feel the freedom to explore, to risk, to fail, to try something new? And I'm interested to know your ideas because we can share them with each other and hopefully use some of them. And I'll start off because the number one thing turn the fear of failure into the challenge. And I tell kids and adults, fail fast and fail big.